Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're ready to start our next panel. It's entitled Cracks in the Glass Ceiling, and it's brought to you by Women Count. Women Count is a nonprofit political organization that gives women of all generations and backgrounds a powerful voice in the political process. The organization has two arms, a 527 that conducts issue-related campaigns and a PAC that raises and donates funds to candidates for office. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you the founder and political director of WomenCount.org, Jamu Green.
Are we going out?
I'd like to bring out our panelists, Marie Wilson, who is the president of the White House Project, Aaron Katecki-Vest, who is the political director of BlogHer, Lisa Fenton, who is the COO of Fenton Communications and an author of the fantastic new book, She Spot, and Sarah Granger, who is a managing director at Future Campaigns. Thank you very much for joining us. This is a historic day as we prepare to witness the nomination of Senator Barack Obama, but we all know that it's been a historic year for women and many implications, not just going into the 2008 general election, but implications for women, for the rest of time coming out of this year. And that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about the lessons learned from this primary. We want to engage in really looking at how we can take the passion and the new interest and the level of engagement we saw from women throughout the primaries, and we believe will continue through the general election, but make it sustainable, make it impactful, and in many ways bring in an entire new generation of feminists. So with that being said, I'd like to start our discussion because these are just amazing women who have so much to share. And I know that sometimes long introductions can take up a little bit too much time. So I'd like to just, if we can go down, why don't we each introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your organization, and then we'll jump into questions.
I'm Aaron Katecki-Vest. I am the political director at blogher.com. We are an online community of women bloggers. You write it, we share it. We've got over 9 million unique readers per month, and we write on every topic ranging from politics to parenting to fashion to food. Anything that a woman might be interested in, you will find over at BlogHer. And of course, we are an omnipartisan site and a nonpartisan site, which means the site itself is nonpartisan, but women are omnipartisan. So we try to bring all of those voices into BlogHer.
See, I already learned something. I don't know what omni.
There you go.
That's great. Okay. I'm Marie Wilson. I'm the president and founder of the White House Project and the author of Closing the Leadership Gap: Why Women Can and Must Help Run the World. And in order to help us run the world, I founded 10 years ago a project to actually give women the opportunity to lead up to and including the presidency. We're not about the presidency. We're about that's where we should be going. We are building political pipelines across the country and pipelines in other sectors as well. We've trained 5,000 women through our Vote, Run, Lead work, which our T-shirt is about. Our Vote, Run, Lead T-shirts are actually famous. It's wonderful. Our Vote, Run, Lead work is really different. We are inviting women to come into a very long 12-year pipeline in our states. We have permanent offices in 4 states around the country: Michigan, Minnesota, Colorado, and Georgia. And in those states, we have year-round trainings for women, debate boot camps, go run, go lead, everything you need to know to permanently be a part of this democracy so that women are more and more a part of democracy. Our specialty is we get out to women who are not only progressive in terms of policies, but we are very good at attracting half young women, because the majority of the women leaders in our country ran for office before they were 35, and we're very good at attracting women across all races and ethnicities.
Sarah Granger, and I'm founder and managing director of Future Campaigns, and we advise political organizations and nonprofits on technology and new media. So basically, I help candidates get elected by using the new tools that we have at our disposal, and a lot of the time on a small budget, because That's very important, as we all know. And I also work with a lot of women's organizations like Emerge America, who trains women leaders, and I've worked with the California Women's Museum, and seem to be working with a lot of women candidates, which is a lot of fun.
I just want to say hello to everyone who's watching out on the web. I've been going to conventions for a long time, and I've never felt the excitement and progressive presence that I feel here. And so while you're not here with us, we feel your presence, and progressives are really making a mark. I'm the COO of Fenton Communications, and we're the largest public interest communications firm in the country. We work for organizations like MoveOn.org, Women for Women International. We're working to reframe what it means to be a Muslim in America in the post 9/11 world. And I'm one of these people who get paid to do what I love. When I'm not doing that, I'm also a blogger and political commentator and a writer, and I just co-authored a book I bring show and tell called The She Spot: Why Women Are the Market for Changing the World and How to Reach Them. I have a small fan club over there. And really, one of my passions in life is to remind the world, and especially the people in politics and the nonprofit world, that women aren't a special interest. We're the majority interest. We vote more, we purchase more, we volunteer more, we have the capacity to give more. We're really the sort of the ground troops and arsonists of social change in this country. And our book talks about how you have to communicate differently with women than you do men, and how you can bring men along if you do that. So I'm really happy, Jamu, to be here today.
And I'll just point out that Sarah Granger has a beautiful shirt on, which is our new t-shirts from womencount.org. Sarah has also been blogging throughout this convention at our website, womencount.org, and just doing a fantastic job. Let's start by, this is, again, a historic day for Senator Obama, but the incredible work that Senator Clinton did throughout the primary was in many ways the impetus for why Women Count was launched as an organization. And I'd like to ask you, Marie, just as the head of an organization that is singularly, laserly focused on having a woman in the White House, and we did come close to nominating a woman, what do you think are the top two or three lessons learned out of the primary campaign, out of Senator Clinton's candidacy, that will help the next time a woman, whether it's Senator Clinton or a Republican candidate or anyone, one of our fantastic women governors we have out there, what are those lessons we've learned to get us into the White House next time?
First of all, I want to just pick up on your historical day, because part of what's going to happen at this convention, for people who are not here, is there is this afternoon, sponsored by the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation and the White House Project and some others, an event about Shirley Chisholm. Because I feel like every time women gather, we have to remember our history, and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton are legacies of Shirley Chisholm, who was the first African-American woman who ran for Congress, who ran for president, who was in Congress, who ran for president, and who had a voice like young women can never believe. We take that film and documentary about her all over the country. I think it's a very good question to think about what we've learned, because what we have learned in this particular race is the dramatic, inspiring power of persistence with women. Whether Hillary Clinton won the presidency or the candidacy or the primaries, whatever, what she did that was symbolized in what she talked about the other night, about when you hear Harriet Tubman, when you hear the dogs, keep going. When they're coming after you, whatever, keep going, is exactly what young women in this country need to see. They need to see women who think political life and policy and the issues that affect our democracy are so important that you keep going every day. And boy, she never looked better than the last few months when she kept going. She woke up every day looking effervescent. So that was an important lesson about because of that, Jamu, we had 61% increase in the number of young women around the country who want to be trained. That's interesting, that kind of persistence, not just winning, that kind of persistence is what women want to see. It's like, get up, get off. The other thing, there's several things that I could say I think we know, but we kept trying to blog about. which is having this country understand that individualistic and individuals who, no matter how good you are, do not actually help. I mean, it helps that they run, it helps that they speak, like Barack Obama or Hillary, but when you have one person, their challenges around their differences are so big that if you had 2 or 3 women running, if you had 2 or 3 people of color running, you would not have had, and that agenda would have been out there. And I think some of what tripped Clinton up was really that whole business of having to walk that fine line all the time about gender and agenda, because gender keeps trumping agenda. And so she had to keep walking the line. In the last 3 months, I think she just let the line go. And finally, what we learned, or what the country learned, I don't think there's anybody up here on stage who learned it, but that there is still a gender bias in the media. And I brought our Sound Bites to Solutions book that we published this year from the Women's Media Center and the Maynard Institute, and also the White House Project, where we're looking and studying and giving recommendations about what to do about sexism, racism, gender, race, age, and class. All those are in this room and in this convention right now. Nobody that's in the movement ever doubted they were there. But boy, learning what to do in terms of the media, because they are there, is something amazing. And I guess having seen those of us who are up here, it was interesting to hear people say, oh my goodness, look what they're doing to Hillary Clinton. Pshaw. You know, what were they doing to Barack Obama? Oh my God, they don't. I mean, it's amazing. So, you know, it was really good for other people to hear that.
I definitely think that the awareness on gender bias and sexism is something that has opened so many people's eyes in this election. And one of the things that came from it, just real quickly, was actually the Democratic National Platform included language about gender bias, and Women Count was really integral in getting that language in there. And that's a good first step, and now we can hold them accountable. I think, you know, just looking at this election, we know the impact of online organizing and campaigning, and how much that helped to increase the level of interest and turnout and activity, and how you can just, you know, engage your friends. And I'd love to turn to our bloggers and ask that same question. You know, what are the lessons we've learned from an online strategy standpoint, and specifically in looking at young women and their role in this election?
We've learned, I think, so much just from talking to one another and having these discussions online, in blogs, in forums, and everywhere else. It was phenomenal, the amount of women who have become engaged in this election because of this, who have begun blogging or have taken their regular blogs, who might have been parent blogs or mommy blogs, and turned them into political blogs and political forces. I see some of my Momocrat friends out in the audience who were parent bloggers who joined together to become a force of political bloggers. You're looking at women who never really paid attention to voting before, and because of places like BlogHer, where they could go and get information in a safe place and not feel as though they were in the big political echo chamber, and they could go in and speak of these things in a civil discussion and ask questions, they are now delegates. Hadn't voted in years, or only voted the way their husband told them to vote, or didn't really pay attention, wasn't watching the news, are now delegates. That's powerful. That's absolutely powerful. And that is what this, I think, election has done, and what I think the discussion of women in this election has done. It's taken the woman who may have been doing PTA and, you know, doing soccer practice with her kids, and then coming home and saying, you know what, I think I am going to go on my girlfriend's site and read about what she wrote today about Senator Clinton. Or I'm going to go and read about what she wrote today about Senator Obama. And the next thing you know, it snowballs. And we have sites like Momocrats, and we have forums like BlogHer. And BlogHer and myself are sitting down with Senator Obama for 15 minutes. And they're listening to us, and they're answering our questions, and they are giving us a seat at the table. And I think that's exactly what's happened in this election.
Sarah?
My perspective is a little bit different because I come from more of the strategy side, like inside the campaigns. I ran internet strategy for Gary Hart when he was thinking about running for president in '04, and so from my perspective, I've just seen sort of this broad, this growth, just this amazing amount of new activism online, and I think women are a big part of it. I don't have statistics off the top of my head as to how much of a part of it, but I know like Netroots Nation, for example, that whole organization, they've got a large contingent of women that are involved, and it's not just young women, it's all ages of people that are getting engaged by going online, and there are all sorts of tools that are at our disposal now, but I think that we still have a long way to go, and that's my impression also from being here at the convention, is that we have a lot of people who say, yeah, the blogs are great, but they're still sort of a novelty, and yeah, we should be online and we need our website and all of that, but they haven't quite grasped the impact that social media can really have, and things like Facebook and MySpace, because it's still so new. So I think what we found with Barack Obama is they've tried all of these new strategies from the bottom up, and it's been very successful, and so the lesson there is that we need to do more of that, and we need to get more grassroots online organizing happening with all these campaigns, and not just those same old flat, even on the local level, not just the same, here's my static web page and that sort of thing. We need to just get more people involved. But I think that the blogosphere is really helping, and I think that women are starting to get more engaged, but I do think that in general we're still sort of, because women traditionally are not as tech savvy, we're a little behind the curve in that respect. So I'm hoping
not any longer. You'll find that the majority of users on the web are now women. We outnumber the men, and we also are 36 million of us reading and or writing blogs. 36 million women. They've left daytime television, they've left their Good Housekeepings and their Red Books. They are now online writing or reading blogs.
I was sorry, I should have been more specific. I was talking about candidates.
Women are using social media too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
There's more women on Facebook. Actually, technology is a women's tool. It allows us to do what we do anyway very well, and that's connect to one another, and we can do it faster and cheaper. And that's been, to me, the exciting thing. It's one of the reasons why I think Obama had a slight edge, and I don't want to go back, I want to move forward, but one of the reasons I think Obama had a slight edge over Hillary is he understood the web as an organizing tool to organize women. And Hillary, I think, did so many things right, but one of the great things about this election for me, which is good and bad, is that I think we learned that women just don't vote for women because they see another woman, that it's more than that. And I think that we have a lot of learning to do. And at the same time, Marie Wilson, who is one of my mentors and one of my heroes, she has this great line that she always says, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And when I was, about 4 years ago, I ran for president on a reality TV show, and I traveled the country, and little girls would come up to me and say, thank you for running, because now I feel I can be it. So Hillary Clinton forever changed that. I can see it and I can be it, and that's really exciting.
And, I think one of the things that I enjoyed from a conversation with Nico from the Huffington Post yesterday, he said that the internet is the last great frontier for the women's movement that hasn't been conquered. And I'd love, Lisa, for you to comment on some of the things that we talked about yesterday in the briefing we had, as far as what is the future of the women's movement. Are we in the third wave still? Is there a fourth wave coming? How much does this candidacy of Hillary Clinton contribute to it? What are the lessons, not just from an election standpoint or political standpoint, but the next generation of feminists?
Well, that's sort of a small question, Jamil.
I know, but you have big answers, Lisa.
Well, I actually sort of refute the premise a little bit. I actually think that women have been online and they have been moving agendas. If you talk to Eli Pariser of Move On, he'll tell you that the typical Move On member is actually a woman in her 40s, and she's most active. But I think power in this country has been seen for who's at the very top and who writes the biggest check. And women traditionally haven't been at the top, and they haven't been writing the biggest checks. And you know why they haven't been writing the biggest checks? Is because they don't see politics as transactional. They see it as something that they want to do for their community, they want to do for their family. And you know what? Politics has not been delivering for them, so they haven't been involved. So it's great that Barack Obama is here. I pray and hope to the stars and to Buddha and to God and to Allah and everything that we win this election, but we have to deliver for women. We have to deliver for them if we want to get them engaged. And what I love about the internet actually with women, I think this is everything where it's at, is that it allows us to be engaged in a way that is easy for us to do. I'm a mom, we're busy people, but it allows us to engage on a whole nother level. That doesn't take away the work that you are doing, Marie, and actually getting women to run. That's a whole nother thing. But just back to the Blog Her piece, which completely surprised me. I went to Blog Her, which is an amazing organization, and there were how many women there?
1,000 attendees.
1,000 attendees, and we had a debate against the Obama representative and against the McCain representative, and like 60 women showed up. Now, what that says to me isn't that women don't care about politics. I think they do. But I don't think that they know that they can have impact yet. And I think that's our job as progressives and as political organizers, to allow them to have impact in their own ways, not just in the same ways that men do. So I think that we have some challenges. And personally for me, I think the women's movement, there's this whole girl ghetto thing. When you mentioned that you work for a women's organization, people's eyes glaze over and they tilt to the back of the head, and they put you on a special panel with all other women because somehow women and men can't talk to one another. We have to really break that barrier, and I actually think the only way we can do it is with great men along our sides. And I know that Marie started Take Our Daughters to Work Day, which is really important, but then it became Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day. And what I love about being the feminism 3.0 or whatever our generation is that we're thinking differently about all of that. And it's because other people paved the way for us to think differently. There was a New York Times piece out recently about fertility rates, and they're down in Europe, and everyone's panicked about it for lots of good reasons. They have an economic crisis coming because of the older people, and they have immigration problems. It's another panel. But the reason why women in Scandinavia are having more children is because there's great social programs that support mothers. The reason why women in Italy are only having one child is because there aren't great social programs and the men don't help. The reason why we're having more kids in the US isn't because we have paid family leave yet, or good child care yet, or affordable health care yet, but it's because we have great men that were raised by great feminist mothers. And so I'm hoping that feminism is inclusive of men too as we move forward.
It's interesting when you talk about that Move On, the majority of Move On's membership is women. Do you think, because in a sense when we launched WomenCount.org, we looked at the Move On model, and we've definitely said many times that we think we're the MoveOn.org for women. Do you feel that the members of Move On say no, the women members know that they are the driving force behind the organization, and no one I think would describe Move On as a women's organization. So where is that connection between an organization like Move On and your more traditional women's organizations, and is there collaboration that happens, or are we moving to a place where it's not about women's organizations, it's about, like you said, no longer labeling us and putting us all on the same stage?
Well, there's a story that I don't know the answer, and I'm trying to figure this out too. But there's a story that Gina Davis tells with C. Jane. She started an organization to get more women and girls in film. And correct me if I'm wrong about this, Marie, but she was saying that if you watch Disney films, which I'm watching now a lot because I have a small child, but if you watch them, the protagonists are often boys. And in fact, they're boys whose mothers were killed, which is freaky. There are very few girl protagonists. And when you ask executives why this is so, they say, little girls will go to movies with little boys, but little boys will not go to movies for little girls. And I think that speaks to a real strength of women, that sometimes we don't always see ourselves as just our gender. We're actually working for our entire communities. I think it's limiting too, because sometimes we don't find our own power and stick up for ourselves. And that's what we have to be doing equally. It's not just demanding that the politicians do the right thing for us. It's doing what Marie is doing at the White House Project. It's doing what you're doing at Women Count to get their voices. It's doing what you're doing with blogging. We have to also ask women to stand up and take their place at the table. I actually don't care that much if they call it a women's issue, as long as they're politically engaged and they're doing good progressive stuff. That's what I want.
Yeah, I want to weigh in on this because I think when we talk about what's next for the women's movement, Jamu, one thing that has concerned me about learning about the sexism in the media is our moving to that, and I've heard people call for that as the next wave of the women's movement. Now we're mad over this and we're going to use that. And it seems to me that it feels apparent to me that this is our time, that, you know, nothing will get solved in this country, really, at any level without women's voices. Because if we've ever needed new resources, if we've ever needed new ideas, if we've ever needed what women have always known about what keeps a country secure, it's now. So I am hoping that the next wave of the women's movement is not a wave, but a kind of decision to actually take leadership, and that we really promote leadership as where we're going now, not oppression. I mean, there's no doubt there's victimization because the women in this country are the government in exile. They are the people that provide health care. They are the people that have thought of the new ways to deal with it. But if women actually take that into power alongside men, then we have something where we don't have to have waves, because otherwise we're going to have waves engulfing us.
Fantastic. And we absolutely love the fact that so many people are watching this online, and of course the people in the audience, I think, have some questions as well. So I want to turn it over for any questions that audience members may have, and as we're getting the mics prepared for that, why don't I start? Since we're hours away from nominating Senator Barack Obama, and I saw a poll this morning that has him winning women pretty handily, but you know, the question is still out there. I think you know, he has 60% to McCain's 36% with women voters, but what does Barack Obama have to do to win the women's vote, which he already is winning?
I was actually very lucky as I got to have this conversation with Valerie Jarrett the other morning, who is one of the Obama campaign senior advisors, and she is fantastic. And she asked me, what do you think they need to do? So I told her. And one of the things I said was, first of all, I want to hear him speaking directly to me a little bit more, and believe me, I'm a full Obama fan, so I feel like he's speaking to me all the time. But I also love hearing from Michelle. I love hearing from the woman behind the man. And I know that she's very busy with the kids. I know that she couldn't come to Blog Her because it was a weekend event, and she absolutely refused to leave the children on the weekend or to travel with them because weekends were sacred for them, which I respected as a mom so much. I absolutely respected that so much, and I heard her. I was like, yes, I know. And I have to go too, and I'm gonna bring my mother-in-law to help babysit the kids, and all the things that women deal with. But the other thing I think is that I like what the senator is doing now because he's not always and only just speaking to me as a woman. I may be a woman, but I am also a voter just like my husband next to me, and I still want to talk about Iraq, and I still want to talk about the economy, and I still want to talk about health care. I don't only want to talk about maternity leave, and I don't only want to talk about Roe v. Wade. I want policy issues, and I want them in front of me just like you put them in front of my husband. And I think that's what, yep, absolutely. Every issue is a woman's issue. And I think that's the one thing we've learned, and that's our biggest lesson that we've taken away from Blog Her's election coverage, is that the community, when asked, responded in force. We want to talk policy, and came up with 12 policy questions. There isn't a piece of fluff in there for each presidential candidate to answer.
Well, I just want to jump on that because that's a very interesting point. People think that if you show a picture of a fuzzy puppy that then you're going to get women on your side, right, which is actually really false. Women are the tougher customers. They want the details. Right. They're the ones who are reading the labels. And you saw this actually if you read the Atlantic piece about Mark Penn's strategy for women. If you've missed this, I actually blogged about this. He really missed this everywhere in his memos where he talked about policy. It was connected to male voters and not to women voters. Right. It was so fascinating. We are tough on policy. We want the details.
Yeah, like women want to be trained. I mean, men run without being trained all the time. Women will come to 12 trainings, you know, before they run for office because they want to know the policy that they're talking about. Excuse me.
No, it's totally true. No, I was going to say something about the platform. One of the things we did at Blog Her was the Momocrats actually hosted a platform building session, and we put together what we got a whole group of people, variety. We had independents, Republicans. We invited them too. And we put together what we thought would be some good platform ideas. I think if we have to put ourselves out there and actually let people know what we think about all of these issues and what's important to us, or they're not going to necessarily know.
I'd just like to add just one quick thing to this. I think that Barack Obama also needs to have a commitment, and I would love for him to make a commitment of 50% of his cabinet being women. You know, Michelle Bachelet, when she was elected president of Chile, I was lucky enough to go with Marie down and watch this. She made a commitment that 50% should be reflective of the people, and his inner circle should be too. I don't think that's too much to ask for. I think one of the criticisms he's had is he hasn't had enough women around him, and it changes the tenor of the conversation. So I'm really hoping he'll do that.
Let's make that challenge today.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have a question?
Hi, in full disclosure, I work with Marie. My name is Erin Velarde, the program director for the White House Project, but my question is about generations. Marie and I are about 40 years apart, actually. We work together every day, but I think we saw in this election the sort of generational Hillary's mother, Hillary, her daughter. I know that moved a lot of people. When we're talking about the internet, when we're talking about blogs and communicating online, I just got my mother to text. I do not. I call my grandmother. I should never have taught her how to text. But how can we connect with women voters, particularly some older women voters who are thinking about either sitting out this election or who are really downtrodden and don't have these communities online to have these conversations? So
I can tell you what's not working. Screaming at my mom and my grandma and my aunt's not working. So we need to come up with something else.
If they're on email is working. If they're on email, that seems, there is a certain point where people are not on email, but email seems to be a good thing for people over 50, for example. Sort of the viral email still works, and I know the Republicans have had a lot of good luck with that too.
Well, and I think there's this good old thing called grassroots organizing. And nothing's going to replace the Union Hall. Nothing's going to replace the kitchen table. I really think that all of us that are online, we need to go and organize opportunities offline to get together, cross-generation, cross-gender, and talk to one another. No one who is online only wants friends online. We're human beings, and we want to touch each other and talk to each other, and we're Democrats. We even like to hug one another. So I do think we need to create those opportunities.
Absolutely, moving people online to offline.
Obama has a great mother story, though, that he doesn't tell enough. When you read the story of his mother,
That's very true.
oh my God, it's so moving. What a woman she was and what she did to make sure that he's who he is. And I think the women we're talking about, being 40 years older than my voice, are really into being respected as mothers. And because actually, you know what happens when you're an older woman, you disappear. I mean, you disappear in the world. And what is exciting about having a colleague like this woman here, Lisa, she keeps saying Marie, she won't let me disappear. But at any rate, the good news is that if Obama were to talk about his mother and that story and ask other mothers, you know, to get involved in that, I think it's one of the most powerful things he's got going for him.
Well, and I just want to say, women are the key to the progressives' future, not just the Democratic future. We care about empathy and caring. We organize in a way that we want to be progressive. So it's not just about what Obama does, it's what we do as progressives. We have to keep organizing women if we want a progressive America.
And they also, I mean, I think as we're about to wrap up, not just as voters need to be the key as candidates and the ones making the policy. And at Women Count, we are really proud to have endorsed and made contributions to many women candidates around the country. And I just want to say that we are looking forward to Tracy Brooks in New York coming out of her primary, Christine Jennings in Florida being one of our next future women congresswomen. Jean Shaheen obviously is in a very close race, and I definitely encourage everyone to go to their websites. And as we look at this historic nomination that's about to happen, I think we also should remember Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones and her fight and everything that she did to contribute to women's voices and our issues. I think we have just a little bit of time for one more question, and in the back over here.
Is it on? Okay. Thank you. I came in a little bit late, so maybe you already addressed the issue as to selling the women about the Supreme Court issue. Has that been discussed already? I have a comment on this. The speeches have been absolutely fabulous, and there has been a deafening silence on the issue of the Supreme Court and what it means to women, sisters, daughters, granddaughters. I think that the women voters who are not going to or who are hesitant about voting for Barack because of Hillary are missing the only issue that they even have to go to the polls on. And I'm just trying to figure out, is there a strategy is there a strategy why it's not being discussed, and is there a way that the strategy can be implemented to get this message out, because it's so important to all generations of women?
Great to take it on blogging, because actually the polling is blogging, because the polling shows that it's not the issue that moves women. We haven't found out, I think I'm right on that, a way. It is the issue, but it just doesn't work, so I turn to you.
Actually, we've been blogging it, and the other thing that we've learned is while that is a hugely important issue, women aren't single-issue voters any longer as well. So it sometimes does not change their minds as much as you might think it would. I have some staunch feminist friends who are still voting McCain, regardless of that issue, because they are not single-issue voters. So I think what we need to do is be blogging more, discussing it more, and getting it out there more so people know and understand the ramifications.
And on that note, I think that it is really, really important to point out that women are not single-issue voters. That is exactly what WomenCount.org's mission is to provide a platform on a variety of issues, and the issues that our members tell us to get engaged in, the issues that deserve rapid response, from one day to the next week or over the period of several years, and that's what we intend to do. I want to thank everyone for coming in the audience. I want to thank our panelists. Blog Her is a fantastic site. Many, many wonderful bloggers. Marie Wilson and the White House Project. Sarah Granger. Check out her blogs at womencount.org. And SheSpot, I have to admit, Lisa, I haven't read it, but I'm hearing rave, rave, rave reviews about it. So please check out SheSpot. Thank you, everyone. That was great.